Miami. What am I going to do? In the cars.
Welcome to Yeshiva Daf. We're holding in Menachos Daf Lamed Gimel. We're starting Daf Lamed Gimel with Daf on top. The Gemara says, the second line. Omav Yudo Mashmuel Kosvo Ashnei Dapim Psul. If you wrote the mezuzah on 2 pages, it's possible. Meisivei Kosvo Ashnei Dapim Veinicho B'Shnei Sifim Psul. So he wrote it in 2 different pages and he put it in 2 different sides of the door. It's possible. Habesaf Echod Shem. Masha, if you did it in the same page, then it's kosher. So Masha,
same post.
Same post.
But 2 pages would be kosher.
Are you okay? Says the Gemara, no. Ru'uyo L'Shnei Sifim Kol. Meaning, if it's able to put it in 2 sides, which is 2 different pages, then it is a problem. Now here, Rashi Toises. Cholekes is, are we saying that this is, we're talking about that it's cut, the 2 pages, or not? Because you could understand it that Rashi learns is 1 big page with a space in between. Toises learns, no, it's already cut. That's the problem. If it's 2 pages in one mezuzah, it's not a problem. What does it mean? So, first of all, you want to know where the door is, like what's the main entrance? Go where the tzir is. What's the tzir? What's avakto? It's the Rashi explains it's the hole in the post, the doorpost, where the door goes on. It's like similar today to the hinges to a certain degree. So where the hinges face, that tells you that's the entrance. Because usually you open the door to the inside, right? That's what they do.
Hinges on both sides.
Meaning, so the way they had it, you have the door. The door had like a little thing, and it closed and opened up. So you see the hole in front of you. That's considered to be the entrance. So it says the Gemara, Ve'echidami. What's the case? Meaning, what do you mean? As the Rishonim explained.
The case of the Ruya, was that kosher Ruya L'Shnei? Was that when it's...
That's what it's possible.
That's when it's possible.
Yeah.
So in order kosher has to be totally in one.
In one. If you hold like this. So now, or like Rashi. Now going back to here, we said that the door, you determine the entrance of the door based on called the hinge. Maybe there's a different word for it in our school, I'm not sure. So he says like this. What's the case? What do you mean? You always go, you know where the entrance is. You look at the door, you know where the entrance is. It says, meaning, you have an entrance between 2 sides of the room, right? Gavri and Nosh, meaning what Rashi says, they made a little mechitza, they made a little wall between the house, in order to separate the men and the wife. The wife should have her own privacy. There's a door from the right side of the house, where the men come in. There's a door on the left side of the house, where the women come in. So now the shaila is in between. What is the entrance? Where are you going from? Are you going in from the men to the women, from the women to the men? The door that's in between. There you go, based on here. I look at the hinge, and based on that, I determine what's the entrance. So the more build a house. Please put a mezuzah for me. Put on the doorpost first. So Rashi learns what's Shat. Shat is, he told him, what we're going to see in the Gemara a little later, is Tasa Velominoso. You have to put the mezuzah after the doorpost or there. You can't put it in the doorpost and then put the doorpost in. That's what he told him to do it. That's how Rashi learns. Toysa says that that's out of Shat because that's the Gemara is going to speak about later. That's not what it is. It belongs later. So we're talking about being Gavril and Noshim. We're talking about this case, that there was a door between 2 sides of the house. So he says, I don't know where the hinge is going to be. Let me see, first put the hinge. Based on the hinge, I'm going to know where it is. Says the Gemara, Aso Kimin Nogar Psula. What does it mean, Kimin Nogar Psula? Rashi says, the idea is, you're not allowed to put the mezuzah in a horizontal state. Can't be laying down. He says in the house of Rebbe, they all were done laying down. The door the Rebbe used to go to the Bismillah, didn't have a mezuzah at all. Why? Because it's not used so much to so it didn't have a mezuzah because it wasn't a real usage. As we'll see the more the ones explain. The idea is Rashi learns Pshat is because it wasn't really a door. It was only something that he used privately. Nobody else used it. But Taisus learns the pshat lo having mezuzah, if this is because of his fetish. Okay? So what do you see from here? The mezuzahs are laying down. So we'll look at Hada avido kesikoso, hada avido keistaviro. What does it mean? So Rashi learns that kesikoso, we're talking about that it's laying down. And istaviro means it's standing up. So you ask the second part, that he did go from the house to Bisredish and did have a mezuzah. There, everybody was using that door, so it was a public door, and that's why it is chayav and mezuzah. You go based on what people use. If you're not using it, it's not a door. Now, here we have a big machlokes Rashi Tosis. Rashi Rabbeinu. Rashi learns that the mezuzah should not be laying down, should be standing up. That's what it should be. Rabbeinu Tam learns the opposite. He says it has to be laying down, not standing up. And Rabbeinu Tam holds that in general, you must have all types of sfarim and mezuzahs and tefillin laying down on a horizontal angle. He says that the Sefer should not be standing in the Aron Kodesh. The Sefer should be laying down on the Aron Kodesh. He says also the tefillin should be, the position of the tefillin inside the bite should be laying down, which is different than Rashi. Rashi holds is standing up. So that's when we get Be'ez Hashem in tomorrow's daf, Shabbos daf, we're going to get the tefillin to Rabbeinu Tam, tefillin Rashi to Rabbeinu Tam. So we'll see over there that it's that really comes out. The Rabbeinu Tam does two things. Not only he argues in the order of the parashas, he argues how to put the parashas. So Rabbeinu Tam in general holds you have to say put it laying down, and the Rashi will have to say standing up. So as the Shita brings over here, but then on Piskei Tzotzis and others. So what do? And Toys really mentions over here in the end this concept. You put it on a angle. That's standing up and now laying down. You don't have to be Yitzibol Shitas. The Shita brings over here. If you want to see it inside, the Shita brings the Ha'ilum Nogu Karashi, last Shita. An angle. So the vort is the known vort in the Oilam is the pshat is what's the idea? The idea is that the when we come to a house, come to a bais, you have two opinions. You have to find a pshara, shalom b'neim. Can't say this is my opinion. I go with mine. But a house, you always have to be able to come to the middle. It's a good share, I'll tell you. You don't always have to come and to be in the middle. It has to be. Right, I was saying. So Rashi holds the standing, but that holds laying down, but Mezuzah put it on the angle.
I think Yeshiva was said once from the 7th period.
Yes, exactly.
Someone always says it.
The mezuzah shall be put in the beginning of the top of the third of the door. Meaning, you take the door, you measure a third, measure it, and the top third is where you put the mezuzah. Make sure it's now within a tefach to the ground, now within a tefach to the top. Everything is kosher. We have a brayso. So the first mandam holds you can do the entire door except the bottom tefach and the top tefach. Everything else is kosher. So this is mamish like Ravuna. You put the kshira on the top, so also you put it on the top of the door. So Ravuna goes very well like Avuda. Ella Shmuel Doma, come on, look Avuda, look Avuda. You see, Shmuel said the top third. Here it says the top of the door. Masha, the higher day is better. You see, really goes like a see. Hi, the Mugil base. My Tchil Shushayon, the Kalmar Lachiko. Meaning he holds you could do it on top as well, but don't do lower than a third. But he's going with the sheet that says you should do it the top of the door. Now, here's a discussion. The place keep according to this: is it better to do it in the top or better to do it in the third? Our meaning is to do it in the third. There's another discussion, and it's seemingly the way I think Toysford's way as well is a machlokes of the Bavli and the Yerushalmi. What happens if you have a very, very large door? Let's say you have a door which is 3 floors high. Where do you put the mezuzah? Do you put the mezuzah the top third of the door? Or you put the mezuzah where you go through? Meaning where a person walks, that's where you put the mezuzah. Even though it's the lower part of the door. So that's something machlekes. I believe that we pass and we do in the bottom part, not the top part. You do it where people walk through. And this has to do with what we're going to see in a moment. You want to put it as close as possible to the outdoors, meaning when you have a very large, very wide doorpost, you put it closer to the outside. Once one comes into the house, right away reaches the mezuzah. Because the mezuzah is a shmirah and he's going to guard his house. The outer it is, the more guards. Look at the difference between Kishbok and Basar Adam. Midas Basar Adam, Melech Yeshiva Mibifrim, Ve'am Misham Merisa B'mchutz. The Melech sits inside, the nation is outside and guarding him. Midas Kishbok and Yuken, Avodav Yeshiva Mibifrim. His slave is sitting inside, who Misham B'mchutz. He's outside, Shreman, Hashem Shomrecho, Hashem Tzilcho, Al Yad Yeminecho. So you have over here the idea of the Shmir of Kishbok. And this is a source to the idea that mezuzah is the shmirah. We have a Messiris that we write outside of the mezuzah, the letters Shin, Dalet, Yud, Shakai, which is the name of Hashem, but here it refers to, as many of the Rishonim bring it, Shomer Dal Tois Yisrael. So mezuzah is the Shomer Dal Tois Yisrael, and that's why there's an Indian person leaves the house, he should put his hand in the mezuzah, where the Rishonim bring it, put down and the name of the Arizal. Why? Because he's touching to touch the mezuzah, which is the shmirah, which is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He represents the shmirah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the idea of the mezuzah is to use it as a shmirah, and there's a lot about that. The concept of the shmirah that the mezuzah has. It's not just only the mitzvah, obviously the mitzvah, but the any of a shmirah. We have in Yonim, Zgulas, for a person Chas V'Shalom has something in the house to be able to check the mezuzahs, because the mezuzah is a shmirah. If he dug into the door and put a mezuzah within tefach away from the doorpost, meaning tefach deep into the doorpost, as it has to be within the tefach to the outside.
So hammock doesn't mean into the doorpost; it means like into the doorway. Is that what you're saying?
Meaning he made a hole in the wall and he dug a whole tefach. The mezuzah is no good anymore. It has to be within a tefach.
Meaning with the tefach into the, not into, I mean, it says hammock, it's not into the house. I mean, it's
right.
into the door itself.
Into the door itself, in the wall of the door. Says the Gemara, they say, they bring a raya. It says, in Nicho bepatzin, patzin is that there's different rows there on the doorpost. Not clothing on malbin. You put on it a big square marble. Im yeshav tefach, if there's a weight of tefach, so mezuzah acheres. Im la acheres, so mezuzah acheres. Another mezuzah. Meaning he took the doorpost, put the mezuzah, he covered the doorpost with a big marble, piece of marble. If the piece of marble is more than a tefach, comes out that the mezuzah is a tefach behind the stone. And you can't have it, has to be within a tefach. So what Kitania hi bepetach shachoy rehadelis. Talk about petach shachoy rehadelis. What's petach shachoy rehadelis? Petach shachoy rehadelis, Rashi explains that we're talking about, a little complicated, should even discuss it. We'll focus here on the way Rashi learns it. Rashi learns that you have two doors that are right next to each other. But the problem, you can't make it literally next to each other, because then if they're literally the same doors, one next to each other, they both mezuzahs have to be on the right. So Rashi comes to a little more complicated scenario where it's on the corner. You talk about a corner. You have one door on this corner, another door in this corner. This door, then the main purpose of the door is to go outside. So you have to put the mezuzah on the right. This door, the main purpose is to go inside. So you have to put the mezuzah on its right, which is here. Meaning you put the mezuzah both in the same pole. So between you have two doors. And between the two doors, you have one pole. This door has to put the mezuzah here. This door has to put the mezuzah over here. So you have to put them in the same pole. So he's saying, if the pole is less than a tefach, one mezuzah will work for both doors. If the pole is more than a tefach, it won't. But that's only if you have another door. If I don't have another door, tefach should not be a problem. That's what the Gemara says.
What does that mean, you don't have another door?
Meaning, if I have just one door, and I'm digging a tefach inside, not a problem. I don't care that the mezuzah is tefach away from the door, as long as there's no other door. Meaning, If I have two doors and I want to use one mezuzah for both, I have to make sure there's no space of tefach in between. Once I have a tefach, it's separated. It belongs to that door, not to this door. But if I don't have another door, I have only one door, and I'm taking this door, I'm digging into the wall, and I'm putting the mezuzah 1 meter inside. No problem. Because it's obviously it's go for this door.
Is that allowed to chisel a hole out like that?
Yeah. In Yerushalayim, you go, many of the doors in Yerushalayim, they chisel it, yeah. So he says, so Kitani Ayip, Peta Shurei Delet. So like, clearly, Peta Shurei Delet, we have a door, behind a door, Im Yesha Pesach, Im Yesha Tefach, Tzor Mezuzah Cheres. If you have Tzor Mezuzah Cheres, it's more Ketzak Tani. Meaning, it's not two different cases, it's explaining the case that we said at Tefach. So in other words, the Gemara says no riot from here. If he made a doorpost out of reeds, so he doesn't have to create, he could stick the mezuzah in one of the reeds. The reeds are hollow in between. You can put the mezuzah in one of the reeds. That's only if he first put the doorpost, then he cut it open and put the mezuzah inside. But if he first put the mezuzah into the door, and then he put the door, pasulo. That's what Rashi referred to in Amud Aleph. It says you have to do it on the mezuzah only after it's built, similar to what we know regarding a sukkah. Okay. Pitchei shimoy means bad doors, bad door openings. P'turim in the mezuzah. My pitchei shimoy, what are you talking about? One says there's no ceiling. I mean, there's no top for the doorpost. It's only two walls with no top. They don't have walls. What does it mean they don't have walls or they don't have a roof? So the Rashi takes explain, we talk about they don't have a straight one. The wall is, there's a brick sticking in, a brick sticking out, a brick sticking in, because that's not a straight line. So it's not a real door. Sticking to the roof. It's sticking in, sticking out. So then it's machlekes. You have to have a if we don't have a mezuzah, machlekes, what is it? Homer Rabbo bar Shilo lav chisto. Achzadro p'turo min mezuzah lefi she'ein la p'tzimi. Achzadro means what? A room that has 3 different walls, but it's open the 4th one. So the 4th wall doesn't have any beams. Mashma yesh lo p'tzimim for without beams. Chayeves. What do you mean? The beams that you have in the 4th wall is not for the door; it's to hold the ceiling, to hold the crossbeam. So you're right. It needs to be made to be a doorway. If it's not a doorway, it's just holding the ceiling. You don't have a din of a door to put a mezuzah over there.
Okay, why don't you go through someplace and no door whatsoever?
No mezuzah. Has to be Tzursa Pesach. Tzursa Pesach will be only if I have an actual doorway. If I have, for example, which happens a lot of times, by the way, Rav David Ross here showed me his house in Lakewood back when he moved. There was a similar thing over there. That was one side, not the other side. But basically, you have a ceiling. And in the ceiling, and then you have 2 beams next to the ceiling. That's not a doorpost.
No, but there it goes straight to the top and then the ceiling.
Exactly here.
It goes straight up, and then there's a piece below the ceiling.
The question is it?
There's no door, but it's 2 sides up.
If it's, again, it has to be Tzursa Pesach. If it's a doorway,
It's opening into another room.
don't have to have a door. Opening to another. If it's open, let's say this doesn't have doors over here.
No doors, just like an arch.
There you have it also.
You do have it.
Yeah.
You
But here we're talking about now about a achsadro having no door. I just have an open wall. I have 2 beams that hold the ceiling. It's not a doorway. So there we don't have mezuzah. I saw the Ispalidi de Mirar. What is Ispalidi de Mirar? Rashi tells us that is achsadro. It does have beams. The same they're just holding the ceiling. It says that Bishar, which is the entrance, it's an entryway, vestibule. And Achsadro, which is this room that has 3 walls. And then Repesa, which is a porch, says the Gemara, the doors has really 4 walls. Why is it called Achsadro? Because it doesn't reach the ceiling. So the Gemara, Chasad be Rav, Kin Dorna Me'aysi. That's a regular room. So the Gemara, Chasad Rumiso, which means, well, Chasad Rumiso has many windows and openings. So it doesn't really, it's not considered to be like a regular room. And that's the Chiddush over here. You still have to have a mezuzah. But you have 4 walls. Omar Achba, Omar Avyudo, Be'arziki, Chaya B'shtei mezuzahs. When you have Be'arziki, you have 2 mezuzahs. My Be'arziki, what is that? Omar Papa Sal Mishvei Derav, Be'shar, Patuach Lechotzer, Batim Ptuchin Be'shar. So we're talking about that you have like a vestibule, that one hand goes into the house, and the other hand goes into the courtyard. So you need to have mezuzah on both sides. Now this is going to start a sugya, which is a little complicated sugya, so we're going to leave this sugya to raise a Shet Shabbos, where, because it's connected behind it, and talking about this double hallway that has 2 doors. So you always, the focus here is, where exactly do you...
French doors.
Well, yeah, what exactly is the main door? And then really for there, you have to decide where will be the mezuzah. Just Torah mentions over here, the fact that you don't have a ceiling alone is not a reason not to have a mezuzah. Because we know, Torah mentions, Visharecha, and the gate you're supposed to have a mezuzah too. So, that's what Torah learns. But maybe Shem has to have a top post to the doorpost.
Is it a walk-in closet in that mezuzah?
If it's big enough, yes.
Yes, it's not a room, it's just a closet.
Doesn't matter. If that's our it depends on the size. You go based on the size, not the room. The room depends on what you do with it. If I was in Eretz Yisrael and they put me in a room and they called my wife and she says, this is the size of our walk-in closet in the house. That was a bedroom over there. That's all proportionate. Okay, we'll stop over here, everybody say.